bajo el nombre.
With the name Renazca, the main owners of the AZCA complex have come together to get its heart beating again. Although it is now weakened, not long ago it beat strongly. AZCA was born to become Madrid's financial district. It decongested the city's traffic and spread out Madrid's activity north of the Paseo de la Castellana. AZCA is located at the heart of the capital's economic activity. Every day, thousands of people flocked there to work. Many major domestic and international companies are based there. Workers, inhabitants, and visitors make up a large stream of pedestrians who turn AZCA not just into a major financial hub, but also a bustling area of leisure and restaurants with large shopping malls such as El Corte Inglés or Mara Shopping. AZCA is surrounded by tourist attractions such as the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium or the Palacio de Congresos, and its Nuevos Ministerios station is one of the main public transit hubs in Madrid, with its 3 metro lines, 5 regional train lines, and 12 city bus lines, as well as a direct link to high-speed train stations, Chamartín and Atocha, and the Madrid International Adolfo Suárez Airport. It is exceptionally well connected. While when it was built, AZCA was a pioneering idea, with the passing of time, some of its facilities became somewhat obsolescent. It had accessibility issues, and it was practically deserted after work. In 2005 and 2006, bids to remodel it were requested, but no contract was awarded. None of the bids met the ambitious standards set. The endeavor to save AZCA's ailing heart seemed to be getting nowhere. But then came Renazca. After pooling all our efforts, we're closer than ever to making this dream of yesterday come true. We are committed to turning this transit area into the go-to place. Renazca is a project for all the people who will turn AZCA into an experience rather than into a place. People who, like you, work in its offices, walk in its streets, or amble its stores. A dream inspired by the people it wishes to inspire. A change we want to be part of, so that we can all make AZCA a place of progress and creativity, so that together we can improve the Madrid brand, so that AZCA can become a place of opportunity. It's time to take on this exciting project and to at last regain a place which deserves to be teeming with activity in life, not just a place to be, but a place of being. Someone once said that it's people who make places special. Let's turn AZCA into a special place. Let's recover the heart of Madrid.
Buenos días a todos y bienvenidos al evento en el que desde Renazca vamos a presentar el proyecto que hemos seleccionado para trabajar.
Good morning to you all and welcome to Renazca. We will be telling you about the AZCA area and how it's going to be revived. We're going through very complex times. We couldn't imagine how we were going to be 1 year after these hard times started, and we don't even know how long this is going to take and what is coming. This is causing a feeling of discouragement and even depression within society. In this context, months ago, Marion Properties and GMP decided to promote the initiative to regenerate AZCA. An initiative, which is a key word, an initiative has 2 strands. Excitement, the wish to do something, but there's something else, the willingness to do something, the willingness to go through with those ideas. In September last year, a protocol was signed with the City Hall of Madrid, and it was supported by all political parties because this initiative was in the proposal 15302 of the city agreements that were signed. And With the willingness to support this initiative, we got a guarantee to be able to take the next steps where we find ourselves now. After that, Alba Patrimonio Inmobiliario and Montisa joined the project, and El Corte Inglés is in the process of joining the initiative. We thank these companies for joining us, for their support to the initiative, but also for the knowledge and the experiences they can contribute to this initiative which we are launching. And we imagine that in the near future, many other companies will join the project. The first thing we did at Renazca was to launch a process to know what citizens thought through our website, and we've received over 400 suggestions which will be taken into account. The words that come up more often are green, modern, open, kind, and leisure. To take on this project, what we wish to do first of all is to reflect on what AZCA represents. As you saw in the video, AZCA is a result of very cutting-edge ideas in the city. It was very modern, and it is now the financial and commercial district of Madrid because it's in a prime location on the Castellana, which is the main avenue of the city, and that means that it's at the heart of that district. But it's also extremely accessible with public transit. It's not just buses, metro lines, but also regional train lines that have links to the major high-speed train stations of the city and the airport. AZCA, however, is seen as a place which is not safe and which is derelict. So both these things mean that this is a great opportunity for the city. It can't have this space in this state. What does Renazca wish to do? Renazca wants to go back to that modernity that drove the project in the 60s. We also want to adapt to the new urbanistic principles of the 21st century, the citizen at the core of urban design and sustainability. We want an area where all parts of the population can enjoy the space throughout the year, particularly with regards to culture and leisure. We want to integrate all the uses, and we also want to integrate this area with surrounding neighborhoods to break with this idea that AZCA is an island within the city. We want for this area to contribute a green area to the city, which doesn't exist and which is badly needed, we think. And we follow up on iconic projects such as the Rockefeller Center in New York. Today is a very important day for Renazca. Besides this initiative with all the stakeholders, we want to show you the project on which we'll be working, and we want to introduce you to the team we want to undertake this adventure with. We've followed a selection process which is pretty novel in Spain, which Martha and Edgar will describe. Let me just say that in the coming weeks, with this starting project and with the participation of companies, citizens, users, together with the help of the administration, we will be building the project on which we're willing to invest. We have strengthened this initiative of Merlin GMP with other stakeholders that have joined. Some these ideas are now a collective initiative, which eventually will be for the use, enjoyment, and maybe also pride of all Madrileans. Let me now briefly give the floor to Martha and Edgar, who will be explaining the process that we've followed to select the winning team. Martha, Edgar.
I'm Martha Thorne. I'm Dean at IE School of Architecture and Design, and I'm also the Executive Director of the Pritzker Architecture Prize. Together with my colleague Edgar Gonzalez, we had the privilege of defining and facilitating the process leading to the selection of the team and the ideas for the reactivation of AZCA area of Madrid. I'd like to first express that this is not a traditional architecture competition. I'll outline the process and that Edgar Gonzalez will give more details. There are many models for competitions and selection processes. We sought to define the best process for this situation. In this case, the goal was to identify a team and ideas for AZCA, given the parameters and the unique nature of the commission, the client, and the stakeholders. The second idea was to put emphasis on the search for the most appropriate team and proposals for this case. We, as an academic institution, through our Center for Sustainable Cities, brought to this process our understanding of the built environment and cities, our commitment to our own city, Madrid, and our long experience in designing and facilitating competitions and selection processes. Our role as facilitators was not to express opinions or influence the selection committee. Rather, it was to make sure that they had all the information necessary in order to make a solid decision that would lead to fruition through the realization of the project. We began by working closely with Renazca representatives to understand their goals and values and how they hoped to work with the winning team. We then defined a two-phased invitational process. The first phase of the selection process was the request for qualifications. This phase lasted only a few weeks and asked for general information about teams and their approach. We sought to be respectful of architects and professionals' time. We did not want them to do a lot of free work. We asked for information from them that we could not gather other ways, such as through websites, articles, and other sources. The selection committee, consisting of representatives from Renazca with outside advisors, architect Odile Deck of Paris, and architectural critic based in Barcelona, Yatzer Moyes, carefully studied the submissions for requests for qualifications and selected 5 teams to move on to the second and final phase of the competition. The second phase lasted from October through the beginning of December, for which finalist teams received a stipend. The process culminated in presentations explaining the multidisciplinary team, the proposals for the spaces, and the strategies to reactivate AZCA. Due to the high quality of the 5 finalist proposals, the clients continued examining the materials submitted and then finally came to a decision just a few weeks ago. Edgar, would you explain a little bit more?
Sure, Marta. Los principios.
The governing rules of the selection process are based on the values and aspirations of Renazca. For instance, the desire to change the perception in the area, to create links in the surroundings, and to become part of the city. It's about being inclusive, modern, and innovative. We all aim at strengthening the role and the voice of the community and that of all stakeholders, based also on a sound strategy of sustainability. One of the main reasons this competition is different is because the client was involved throughout the process, not just at the beginning and at the end, but the client was active throughout the process. It was part of the selection committee. Together with the selection committee, a list of 50 candidates, national and international, was drawn up. These were professionals who could find the right approach for this type of project and who could make up a multidisciplinary team that could meet the complexity of this commission. During this first phase, request for qualifications, 30 national and international teams were selected. They were asked to submit a dossier to put together a multidisciplinary team made up of studios, consultants, and firms from different professional fields. They were asked to provide documentation of experience in 2 projects that they had participated in, a letter of interest, and also they had to answer brief questions, the same for each team, in which they had to elaborate on their vision, a vital concept for a vibrant city, their sustainability strategy, and their working methods. After having carefully studied this documentation, the selection committee decided to shortlist 5 teams. They were asked to submit a proposal for the 56,000 square meters of public space in the area without it adding new permanent structures. They were also asked to comply strictly with legislation in the area of safety, security, health, fire safety legislation, noise, accessibility, among others. The second phase of the project was designed to help the client understand the team and its working methods, the way that it tackled challenges as complex as these, and the way the team would work with the client and the stakeholders. Teams held a meeting with the client at the midpoint where they could see, the clients could see how the team worked. Once the submissions were completed 10 weeks later, the teams sent written documents on the strategy and the lines of action of the project, together with a summary of the submission so that the members of the selection committee could study them before hearing a presentation. During that presentation, teams were able to describe their project and strategy to revitalize AZCA. After that, the selection committee met several times to see whether the proposals and the teams were fit for purpose. The decision-making process was not based on a score or on a list of boxes that needed to be checked, but on a set of open debates at the committee on the quality of the proposals relative to set parameters and the team's potential. The quality of the 5 teams was very high. The process concluded a few weeks ago with a difficult decision of picking the winner in the selection process to renew AZCA.
Anunciar el equipo ganador, el equipo.
The winning team, the multidisciplinary team, is led by the 3 firms, Diller, Scufidio, and Renfro, Gustafsson, Porter, Baumann, and based at 720 Fermin Vasquez Arquitectos. And now we will let the winners explain their submissions.
Control this, but okay.
Your voice is so pale.
Yes. Okay. Is this okay now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
We don't
thank
have
you.
big. There's no image.
There's no image. Okay.
Yeah, you get image.
All right. Sorry, a little technical mishap at the beginning. Anyway, thank you, Martha, for the introduction and to hear actually what went on. It's a huge honor to be selected for this project, and this will be our first in Spain. I want to thank also the Renazca group for supporting this project, and it's a pleasure to finally have a chance to share this with the press and the public. So I first want to just introduce everyone. I'm a partner at Diller, Scufidio and Renfro. And our studio has joined forces with B70, Fermin Vasquez Arquitectos, who is there with you today, and landscape architects Gustafsson, Porter, and Baumann of the US and UK. And they're with us remotely, and they're working directly with Ana Luengo of Chiteria, who is also with you today. Sean Gallagher, our Director of Sustainability, is remote, and he might join the conversation. So we're joined also by a great team of consultants that I won't mention, all of them. Now, I want to show you just a little bit of our work, our mutual work of this group. We are, I feel, really a team that's been assembled for this really challenging project. And this, my studio comes with this great experience of designing for the public realm. And we've been doing this for quite a long time. You see the High Line in front of you, a 2.4 kilometer public park that was built on industrial infrastructure that has gone obsolete. And this 14-hectare park in Moscow, Zaryadye Park, that's built next door to St. Basil's Cathedral, the Kremlin, and Red Square. So these large public urban parks, very important for us, but this project even more specifically, it's the Lincoln Center, 6.5 hectare campus of cultural buildings and public spaces that was built in the 60s that we have had to totally rejuvenate, including facilities transformations like this expansion of Juilliard's Brutalist building. And so we have a particular passion for this era of architecture, and I think that's one of the reasons we were drawn to it. So as our partners, we selected Gustafsson Porter Baumann, who came very willingly to this project. And I think also their sensitivity to cities was very, very important to us. And their experience doing complex projects, very technical projects, especially planting on top of buildings and infrastructure. This is Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial in London. Their most significant project in Spain is the Parque Central in Valencia, which they've recently completed. And the work that they're currently doing is the rethinking of the landscape around the Eiffel Tower. And this is a landscape that stretches between the Trocadero and the Eiffel Tower and the École Militaire. So it's a huge project. And Anna Luengo of Chiteria also brings extensive knowledge of local context to the project. And she's recently completed this roof garden above the extension of the Prado. Now, so we came to Fermin Vasquez, B720, because we have great respect for his work. He's one of the most reputed architects of Spain, and he works in a variety of typologies, from civic work to commercial to cultural projects. And projects like the Mercado in Cans, an open-air market in Barcelona, to the Hotel VP Plaza de España in Madrid, right next door to the Royal Palace, and to the Spanish Pavilion of the World Expo in Milan. Fermin has worked also successfully with a variety of international architects, including David Chipperfield, Jean Nouvel, and Toyo Ito. And he is a great collaborator. So in this case, he will not only give us support on the project, he will actively be working with us as a design partner. So it's a three-way collaboration, and we have worked on this competition all together. Okay, so question is, what will happen here? The world has changed a lot since AZCA was built. This superblock that was conceived for car culture is not responsive to contemporary urban citizens that have new priorities and a belief that the public realm is critical to civic life. We entered this competition because of its complexity. It seemed like it was impossible. And these projects that are really impossible are really a fantastic draw for our firm. We like to make things possible that seem impossible. And my studio has a passion for rescuing buildings of the second half of the 20th century. We do quite a few of them, and also public sites. And these sites have few advocates. So it's important to not give up on this era of modernism. It had great aspirations. It's just out of step with the times. And we need to breathe new life into this place that's full of potential in one of the greatest cities in the world. And this place should be a destination in Madrid and a local hub for the community. I want to ask Catherine, if you'd like to just say a couple of words of opening here.
I think it's also, the complexity is fascinating, but it's an opportunity to really apply everything we have been working on for the last 15 years on sustainability, on application of doing a robust environment, to looking at this new aesthetic of the natural and how to bring the natural back into the city and make it represent the place it is. This is really one of the best places to do it and to reduce the heat island of it and bring in more activity and connecting to the neighborhoods. It's very, very exciting as a place.
And Fermín, would you like to say a couple of words?
Sí, sí, claro.
Yes, thank you. It's difficult to explain what this means for an architect from Madrid, having the possibility to regain a space that is abandoned or forgotten for all Madrileans. How that feels to regain that space for the city in a way which is inclusive, kind, healthy, open, and responsible as far as energy and resources go. It's a unique opportunity.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to just go through a series of slides. On the left is today, on the right is our ambition for Renazca. So first is to prioritize pedestrians over cars, to create an inviting destination for everyone, to bring dead spaces to life, to combat all the hard surfaces with vegetation, to bring daylight into the passages and tunnels of the site, to diversify the landscape and thus make it healthier, to make the site safe night and day, and to make the public space well respected by the public so that it can be kept clean. On the right is the High Line. There's no garbage, there is no graffiti, and we firmly believe that when the public respects a place where they feel it's a gift, it becomes much easier to maintain. We also want to convert the underutilized spaces that are currently covered by Plaza AZCA. We want to convert them into productive spaces for the community and for culture. And this would bring vitality to the site. So more than the people that visit, more than the people that already work there, more people doing productive things. So I'm going to show you a series of slides that are effectively the principles that we've been working with that guide the design. So we want to connect the isolated mega block of AZCA to the city and to connect El Viso and Cuatro Caminos communities together, especially areas currently underserved by green communal space. AZCA is a giant site. Much of it is public, but it doesn't attract the public, and it doesn't welcome it. And there's not much to do. Our vision is to bind the disparate residual spaces of AZCA by a system of paving, lighting, and vegetation, a kind of urban carpet, and from end to end, touching as much as we can. The heart of Renazca, the new heart, the central green, will be defined by a new topography, a bowl-shaped like form with a high ridge at the edges that acts as a kind of horizon that produces an immersive environment away from the surrounding buildings. So we're right surrounded by buildings, but we're creating an atmosphere that is going to be a place to escape to a kind of retreat. Another priority is that Renazca's landscape will be made out of resilient and drought-resistant native species that will attract wildlife, sounds and smells, biodiversity. And while this site will be a retreat, we also want to really activate it. So Renazca will have vibrant daytime and nighttime presence. It will be a place for office workers that are already there to stay longer, a place for locals to engage in their everyday lives, and for Madrileños and tourists to discover as a destination for world-class programming. Also, optimize. This is very important for us. These underutilized residual spaces around Plaza AZCA can be reimagined into cultural programming that will be of benefit to the community. So it really does affect the very people that typically don't enter the site today. So we have a promenade encircling the central green that connects all parts of the complex, old and new, all the levels of the public realm. And here, yes. So this promenade this promenade encircles the whole space, all the levels of AZCA, and which we know are varied and sometimes very, very difficult to navigate. So there will be this pathway that will connect all parts at all levels and will create barrier-free access for everyone. And there will be an iconic component in the central green, a recognizable piece of architectural sculpture that's responsive to the environment that I'll show you at the end. And lastly, self-sustainability. Renazca will produce a symbiotic ecology between buildings, the programmed public spaces, the biodiverse landscapes, all together into a new kind of ecology, collecting and redistributing rainwater, repurposing waste, and producing energy. So this is an opportunity to bring all of this together. Now, I want to say a couple of words about the master plan. This intervention is, as I mentioned, across the entire site, east to west, north to south. There will be improved entries on all four corners of the megablock with concealed vehicular entrances that are out of the way of pedestrians. So we want to really improve, while we cannot move the ramps, we want to improve all of these entrances and welcome people coming from all sides. There is, I want to point out, some architectural features, a band shell here, and a large glass canopy here that will activate this pedestrian street behind. So we will improve the north-south connections along the length of the block, especially this pedestrian street that covers Calle Agustin de Betancourt and connects Avenida del General Perón and Calle Villaverde. So this is going to be a very, very important access. Also, the east-west movement through the block is very, very important. The connection between Castellana and Calle Orense through the Cervantes building. So the entrance will be improved. We will also provide easy connections to the public transit at Nuevos Ministeros and at the southeast, and Santiago Bernabeu Station and the stadium in the northeast. I'm sorry for my terrible accent. I've been told that it's charming, but I'm a little embarrassed, but hopefully you understand what I'm saying. The central green here will be the heart of AZCA. So this is undoubtedly the most exciting space. But we also have designed a site-specific micro parks that we call urban rooms. And they're sprinkled throughout in all the residual spaces between buildings. Each has a unique location and each has a unique vision for programming. This is the anatomy of the site. So this is that urban carpet, these two here, with a central green and the 15 urban rooms. Below here is the unused circulation zone, a loop of production spaces for the community and for cultural programming. And here is the promenade network that connects all points of the site in all different elevations. And here is the environmental installation called Permanent Sun and Permanent Shadow. And now I'd like to give the floor to Catherine to describe the central green.
Catherine, you're on mute.
Catherine, you're on mute.
Yes, I was trying to be on mute not to bother people. The central green is really this amazing landform space that is able to connect to all levels. It's one of the biggest problems with the site today is there's so many different levels. It's so hard to get around for the universal access barrier free. One of the things by creating this immersive space is also a way of looking at how to be in a place that is separate from the city with this ridge line where you see the buildings, but you also are in a space that really is supportive to performance and to the performance and also to the element of the environment and to the sustainability. The landform allows us to connect everything at less than 5%. And so it's very important of its welcoming and its connection to the city. Next. These sections, the top section, as you can see right in the top corner, is stretching across the diagonal between, on the left, is the new amphitheater shell and performance piece. And then we come into the central bowl that also uses this bowl to enhance where people can view the performances and the entire space. And then it comes up and you can see the cisterns that we're going to talk about later that hold the water, which is part of the sustainability, and into the final area, which is the terraces that overlook it. The second section, as you can see here, goes straight east-west. You start from on the right, the Cervantes building, the covering of the street and changing that street climatically so it's really much more comfortable, very exciting change. And also how that building, if we can get there, can become an active part of the central space. Liz will talk more about that program in a moment. And then as we move to the left in that section, you can see the horizon line and the existing cafe on the eastern entrance that is reinstated in that entrance area. The climate, as we've all seen in Madrid, is really remarkable with your very, very cold winters. You just had an amazing amount of snow. The damage it's done in the parks is incredible. There's also really hot summers. We're very aware of these extremes. And it's these extremes we need to really work with. And we work with the native vegetation and adaptive naturalized vegetation that uses less water to minimize the need of the water, but also that will represent the amazing different palette of vegetation you have in the region. It's a beautiful palette. And so integrating those will create habitat, and it will make it feel like it's of this place. We often use the word a place that fits. Like the park in Valencia, really studied the region, really studied the area, really worked with the natural landscapes to bring into that park, like we will work on this, to make this park stretch, as Liz said, the entire extent. We really want to touch everything so that we reduce the hardscape, we bring in biodiversity, but it's adaptive. It's adaptive to the needs and the uses of Madrid. The next. When we first did our research, it was very interesting to see how the historical parks were done in Madrid and how you have this network of underground rivers. And the underground rivers, that water was brought into these reservoir tanks that are held, that you can see in the images. And when we did the research, we found that we did have a river that came right under our site. And so we wanted to represent that piece of water as a piece of history of the site, and also of how we give identity to that site itself. Water resources are really important, and trying to understand where they all come from and how do we gather them, how do we maintain them, how do we use them, and how do we store them? And we have a very complex diagram of how to do this, and have gone through quite a bit of study. So we're looking at rooftops, we're looking at all spaces of collection. We're also looking at a series of storing that water for reuse, and also when you have too much water, how to overflow that into the existing system and share it with that system also. So we have been working with water. I've been doing this for 40 years. You can see some of our projects at the top. We're not looking to do an Anglo-Saxon piece here. We are really looking to do a piece that is made for Madrid and will survive and be diverse and robust for Madrid. So in doing that, the next slide will show you how we, excuse me, how we've gone through quite a bit of measurements of measuring what is the amount of water that we can use and we can store, but at the same time, what is the water that the landscape will need? And so we feel that we will not be using city water. This is our goal. Our goal is to be self-sustainable, as Sean will talk about more later, whether it's in energy, whether it's in water, whether it's in vegetation. And also to be very biodiverse. And you can see the numbers here. We feel like we are in good shape. We'll obviously in the next months be confirming, working with local authorities, working with local people to really make sure that we all agree on the future of this site. Next. The site has many different areas and many different levels, and also different sun levels and shade levels, and trying to find that right biodiversity, that right connection of how you the different types of vegetation will be adaptable to that very specific area. You can see through the center, we have a course of water. That course of water has to do with stormwater management, like when you have big snows, that it will absorb that, it will filter it. It's a riparian wetland that will go dry in the summer, but in the winter, when you have the rains, it will be the filter that will filter that water into a series of cisterns. The other side of that water is cultural, you'll see in the next slide, but really the creation of habitat, because you have a lot of boulevards, you have other parks around, so we want to be part of that habitat corridor and create the diversity of the types of plants that will feed to that biodiversity of the entire city.
So, Catherine, we're going through just a tour of the park, of the Central Green from the entrance.
Slide 44 is not is there a slide before that?
This is just a tour. It's a tour.
Okay, so it's, as you move through the park, there's different entrances. So here you're coming in from the east entry. You can see the land bridge across the top. You can see below you, there's the cafe at the east entry. As you move through, you see the two pathways on the side that lead you to the horizon line and also lead you to the other areas and also move you into the bowl. And as you move into the bowl, everything opens up. You can see the Cervantes building with the architectural roof over the street, and you can see the amphitheater off to your far right. That also, this is the central water course that goes through it. It's split into two different kinds of water. On the right is the stormwater management, the riparian water that filters water through to the cisterns. And on the left is a very shallow, thin water on a hard space that can be used for play. And if there's enough water in the summer as cooling, it can be a play area for children. It's only probably 2 centimeters of water on a surface. It also will help in our collection of solar voltaic and contribute to the collection of energy, which Sean will explain later. Next. Up on the top is a similar feature that we did in London, and you can see children playing in that. So this is from the Picasso Tower Plaza, which is a beautiful plaza that we are maintaining very much in its core, but changing the surroundings and opening up a connection to the central space. And you can see the water course is sculpted here. And in the summer, it will be dry. In the winter, they'll have water. So it's very environmentally adaptive to the water needs and uses. And it also starts to connect at that lower level through to all the different events and activities that are possible. This is the performance area. It is a large open space that you move through. It isn't closed at the back. It's open to the street and the Cervantes behind and open into the land movement. When there is not an event, you could have a cafe in here, you could have pop-up, you could have other events. So it's a very multi-use, dynamic type of space. From the Cervantes building, you see we would like to extend a terrace out in front, connect to food and growing and agriculture and trying to understand urban food growth, and also have a beautiful terrace that overlooks the central space and at the same time is part of the new roof that protects it for shade. Next. And here you see some of the roof spaces that on the Scientist building, if we can move there with the current owners to have a agricultural urban food. It could be educative for children. It could be participative with associations. It can connect to the neighborhoods and also connect to the Central Bowl.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I think Liz talk about performance.
Yeah, so this space that we've discussed as a place of retreat will also be active some of the time, very active with the public. And we imagine a whole variety of different types of events. So this band shell that's built into the sort of landforms that produce the horizon around the site will be an acoustic shell. And we can have concerts, theater and dance performances, films, conferences. It can host events anywhere from an audience of 200 to 10,000 people. And we imagine there could be a deployable roof, a canopy that could extend to shelter about 2,000 people. So here you see that space that Catherine just showed that could be used during the day as a place to eat and to meet in a kind of shady place, but also we can have very large events there of different types. Now, so in addition to the central green are these 15 outdoor urban rooms. Each is uniquely responsive to its site-specific conditions. So some are large, some are small, in sunny places, shady places, exposed or enclosed by buildings or exposed to the street, in tunnel-like atmospheres, places that are synergistic to other existing programs. So I'm just going to show you a series. There are at the 4 entrances where there are ramps for cars to get to the lower levels. We want to install trellises with planting on them to basically, we can't get rid of the cars, but we can make those entrances a little friendlier to the public. Here is a little plaza, place to eat, food trucks. This is a bosque in a well-trafficked area near the train and metro stations. And then here, these are all sort of peripheral conditions. A woodland bosque at an entrance between 2 car ramps. So what you see, this valley, actually are those 2 trellises, and you can, so we're trying to convert what is actually a kind of negative feature today into something a little bit more positive. When you enter some of the interior sites, we imagine lots of activities and changing activities. It's vibrant, it will be different in the day, on the weekends, and seasonally. So here's a farmer's market and tapas garden covered by a flexible canopy that deploys when the market is active, and it compresses to make space for other uses. So it's all quite flexible. And then here, this kind of important reimagining of the Cervantes building, which is very important and central. And I will ask Fermín to maybe speak about this a little bit.
Sí, claro. El edificio será...
The building, Cervantes, is an example of the opportunities afforded by AZCA spaces. It's a building which is located in the west of the Central Green. It should host restaurants and have a terrace looking towards the green, and it will be covered with a thin, transparent sheet which will cover the canopy over this productive garden where food that is eaten in restaurants will be grown. And near Agustin de Betancourt, where there's a back alley, that will become pedestrian with plants. And it will be easy to structure in different bands, depending on how the work progresses. Go ahead, please.
Okay, so I will just quickly, I see the time is running fast. So some more of these urban rooms. This is an intergenerational playground for seniors and for young children. This is an area that has 2 half basketball courts that are sunken below grade and open to the sky, adjacent to some of the lower level retail spaces and clubs. And this is the entrance from Plaza de Lima that will be heavily used by tourists coming from the nearby stadium. Here is an open air co-working space next to WeWork. And here a sculpture garden that could be seasonally commissioned like the Serpentine in London. And here we envision an outdoor reading room and library, could be a book exchange. And this is part of a court in the parking garage that's just north of Plaza Picasso. And it's converted into an outdoor space that is a part sculpture garden, but it functions seasonally to become also a small skating rink. And this is all adjacent to the large step terraces with outdoor dining adjacent to the Moda Mall, which we will transform into very nice landscape spaces. The promenade is a pathway that connects all the parts of the site. It's elevated to coincide with the upper ridge of the central green. And it sometimes frees itself into a bridge to connect the undulating topography. So you could see here it touches on the crest of a hill and then it continues as a bridge, a little bit like the High Line. And then it also comes down to grade and connects the spaces between buildings, and also this pathway climbs on top of buildings, on building podiums. Okay, and a little bit about the optimization of the lower area. Fermin, can you take this?
Sí, esta es una parte muy importante de la.
This is a very important part of this project because we think it's key to the success of this new urban space to be active throughout the day, 365 days a year. There are currently below-grade spaces, which is one of AZCA's problems, and we want to convert them into an asset. We think that giving them cultural content to make them an area for cultural activities. For instance, these spaces could be used for image and movement. For example, a place that can go from the most popular, for instance, movies for children, to movies, shows, digital productions, and all of this would surround these spaces which make up the new topography and which host the water cisterns which will be used to irrigate the area.
Adelante, Liz.
Liz?
Okay. Yes, thank you. So far we've shown you all of these transformations that use the surfaces of AZCA that just build up from the surfaces and are very integral and integrated, yet produce a very different kind of space. Here we're showing something that's clearly added as a new structure. This is called the permanent shadow, and it's a responsive real-time architectural and art feature that comprises of a 22-meter disc, which is suspended from 4 corner columns. And this disc shifts in position according to the sun's path to produce a shadow in a permanent spot on the central green. So you will see as the day advances and the sun moves, that shadow will stay exactly in that spot. And of course, this is a programmable system, and we can move that shadow anywhere, but we love very much this idea of something in the center that's totally predictable. This will be a very nice thing in the summer months when it's very hot. And so when the building shadows are not there, the permanent shadow will be there. And then as a pair with that, we want to introduce the permanent sun, which is also a responsive real-time architectural feature that tracks the sun's path to redirect the sunlight into areas of the central green that are in shadow because of the surrounding buildings. So we do this with an array of pivoting heliostats that you see there, and that are positioned very high up to sort of catch the southern sun. And I'll show you how that works. And so that spot of sun will always be there, even when the shadows move. It will pick up and then move to the next shadow. So this will provide thermal comfort in winter months and also in the chilly swing seasons. Okay, and we'd like to finish off by talking about the sustainable systems on the site. Fermin, would you like to take this?
Sí, sí, quizá esto.
Yes, maybe this is the symbol of the attitude of the project, which aims to transform this space. Which is the failure of some type of urbanism. So this will be a new generation of urban space design and public space design. We know that green isn't always sustainable, and we're committed to making this project an example of a system where buildings, landscape, architecture come together to ensure that the project is self-sustaining, so that it generates the energy it uses, it collects and harvests the water it needs. It isn't a burden on the infrastructure systems in the city, and it even produces food and generates activity. So I think that it will be, I hope, and we're sure, it will be a good quality urban destination, and it will also be an example of responsibility at the beginning of the 21st century.
Liz.
Okay, thank you, Fermin. So just, I think we are done with our presentation, and I want to thank you and just say that we really look forward to now starting the project. And again, thank the client group for really investing in what will be a space that will be inclusive. So that is, there was always public space at AZCA, but it was never truly public. The public didn't want to go there. We hope that this will be a destination for people in the neighborhood and from around Madrid. Thank you.
Might as well jump. Might as well jump. Go ahead, jump. Go ahead, jump. Hey, you, who said that? Baby, how you been? You say you don't know, you won't know until you begin. Well, can't you see me standing here? I've got my back against the record machine. I ain't the words that you've seen. Oh, can't you see what I mean? Might as well jump. Go ahead, jump. Might as well jump. Go ahead, jump. Woo-hoo.
Muchas gracias a todos.
Thank you very much for being with us this morning. We now have a Q&A session, so you can ask questions to those of us who are here and also to those who are with us remotely. First question, please.
Supongo que es mi turno.
I'm from Icon Design, and my question is for whoever wants to answer. I wanted to know what you think about the criticism from part of the architectural sector in Spain against how the competition was organized. Because international studies were given an advantage, and also the role of the Spanish partners in these projects. So I wanted to know what your opinion was. Well, it's not about the architects here. It's about the projects. So I think the project that is selected needs to be judged. As far as I'm concerned, it's been one of the best organized competitions that I've taken part in. And I seize this opportunity to say that we need to avoid these nationalistic biases, and we've won international competitions abroad. So I don't think there's much more to say. Yanko, thank you for your question. I need to admit I'm a little confused because I didn't understand whether it was the process which was being criticized or whether it was foreign studios that were being criticized. And you know I've been here in Spain for several decades, but just by hearing me, you know I'm from abroad. I don't really know where this came from. So let's see how the project moves on. And when people see that this is a very large multidisciplinary team, I hope that people will judge based on facts and not rumors. No one was given any advantage. It was a clear, transparent, and open competition. It was a selection process where the clients were very clear in everything they said, and they also made their values very clear, and I think that the result will be able to be judged in the future.
Siguiente pregunta.
Next question, please.
Estamos esperando.
We are waiting for the next question.
No, pues si no hay más.
Unless there are any questions, I would ask Miguel Hernandez from Renazca to close this event. Thank you.
Muy bien.
Well, after hearing this presentation, I would like to thank all those who've attended. I'd like to thank Dolores Gofino Renfro and the whole team. The description of the winning project. I would like to say that there are few human endeavors where all parties can win and few lose. The benefit of one party does not mean the other parties lose out. And Renazca is a case in point. Here, it's the people living here, people working here, people who have stores here, the city, the city government, the neighborhood of Tetuan, Madrid. They're all going to be winners. No one's going to lose out. This is the beginning of a very exciting project which is being born at this time and which will require the support and contribution of everyone. As I said, the winning team made a wonderful presentation of the idea which will enable Renazca to transform this part of the city. And the project, of course, hasn't concluded. This is the basis on which we have to start working. This isn't about real estate. It's not about landscaping. It's not just something to improve infrastructure. It's not just a cultural project either. Renazca is a dream. It's an idea which picks up on aspirations from the past. It will permanently transform this space, which currently is inhospitable, and which will adapt this part of the city to the needs of the 21st century. It will be an area which will be inclusive and sustainable, where people will be able to work, visit, live. When time goes on by, we will see that we've taken part in a great initiative that, as I said, started with an individual idea and which is now a collective endeavor. And we will feel proud to leave this legacy to the next generations. I would like to conclude by saying that as of this afternoon on Renazca's website, you will be able to find all the information on the project which was presented today. Thank you very much for your attendance.
gets me down. You got it right. I've seen the darkest around, and I know, baby, just how you feel. You got to roll with the punches to get to what's real.